He's the reason for the season. It's Skeet Ulrich. How's it going, man?
Very good. Very good. It is that season.
Yeah.
Although it's like 95 degrees in Los Angeles.
Yep, we're in Austin. It's up
Oh,
there.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And uh, let's get rolling. Let's see
Yeah,
where we
let's
at.
do it. So you actually just attended Scarefest. You're really
Yeah.
diving into these horror and Comic Cons. How fulfilling is that for you just to see firsthand how important your work has been to so many fans?
It's been real eye-opening, to be honest, the number of years I've done these in many regards, and not just for me personally, but I think it really forwards the notion of how important art is to a society. I have a number of people throughout the years, hundreds, if not thousands and thousands of people that mention how this film or that film got them through a tough time or bonded their family together or has meant so much in so many different ways. And so it really brings to mind that idea of the importance of what we do. And it's not just something that you throw out into the void for your own ego. There's a lot to it, and there's a lot of warmth, and Matt Lillard and I make a real point of extending our gratitude to people in a way. Most people sit behind the tables at these things, and we stand right out front of it and greet every person with hugs and an openness to really try and get to know them in the little bit of time we have together and to see them. And you get moments where through just a conversation, you can see a spark plug go on in a little kid's eyes or a teenager's eyes that could be life altering, could
Yeah.
give them a path and an acceptance to that path that they hadn't had before. So we don't take it with a grain of salt. They're really rewarding and fulfilling in so many ways.
And you've even credited Matthew Lillard with helping you along the way in the con circuits.
Yeah.
I kind of got to see that firsthand this year at South by Southwest. He did a panel there, and it's just like he's just so good at interacting with fans. Can you speak to that a little bit more? I mean, he's just like he's the guy, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's it exactly. I mean, there's nothing false about him. He's a very heart forward person, and has just such a beauty inside of him that just pours out. He has such an empathy and love of people, and really has a special way of seeing people and
Yeah,
of interacting with them, that everybody who ever comes in contact with them leaves feeling warm and seen and heard and appreciated. And it's just a unique thing about him. I don't see it in a lot of people, and he's taught me a lot about that. And I'm forever, in love with the dude. He's like, he's
yeah,
just a great, great man,
yeah.
in so many regards.
You love to hear it. Um, Now,
Yeah.
getting into the movie a little bit, the movie's Scream, obviously. Was there ever a hesitation to reprise your role, in Scream 5 and 6? Because you're like, okay, let's be real for a second. Like, I'm 25 years older. Like, what are we going to do here?
I
Uh,
mean, that is exactly the hesitation was, how do we pull this off? And, it's a credit to Matt and Tyler and their ingenuity and their ability as filmmakers. And, they had me, really understanding the technology and what they were going to do. And
yeah,
when I arrived in Wilmington for five, they greeted me with open arms. And the second I shaved, they really were like, "Oh my God, you look so young. Like we
yeah,
may only have to do a layer of this." And but any hesitation I had in the initially, they addressed and were and really made it feel like this is, Wes would be very proud of what we were doing, and
yeah.
and I agree with him. I think he would be.
That's so cool. And it is. It's truly like you're back in it. You're just Billy again, which is
Yeah,
cool to see.
yeah, yeah. It was wild. I mean, I couldn't say I can't say that I spent a bunch of time rehearsing that voice again, but it just sort of popped out. And I remember doing the first scene in the car, poor man's process, where the car's sitting still. We were on the parking lot of the soundstage in Wilmington, and Jack Quaid was. They were only, it was the last day of filming for them, and Jack and Melissa were really the only cast still around
Yeah.
on that last day, and they had some stuff to shoot. And he walked by and was like, "Oh my God, I heard Billy Loomis!" Like, and so it was quite a rewarding experience to nail it again.
Yeah. Now, one of my favorite stories of yours is, and most fans probably know this, but how you almost ruined the original ending to Scream.
Oh my God, yeah.
Can you just run us through that real quick again?
Well, I was doing an interview for Interview Magazine, and they asked me what I was. I think I had three films, if I'm not mistaken, that were coming out on the same day.
Oh wow.
And so there was a lot of hype around that, and they were, asking me what I had going on next, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I'm so excited! I get to play this serial killer," and then it hit me, after we hung up that, oh shit, it was over the phone. Oh shit. And I called my publicist right away. And
Oh.
fortunately, not,
Yeah.
the day we are now where that's instantly out. And it was redacted.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Uh,
great. It's good that they were so understanding, and obviously, yeah, this was before Twitter and everything. So
yeah, it was before spoilers,
yeah.
really, to be honest. It was before Facebook. It was before kind of
Yeah.
everything. So yeah, I got lucky.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So it sounds like both Nev and Courtney are coming back for Scream 7. But at the risk of spoiling anything, can you tell us if you'll be returning or not?
I don't think so. I don't know how that would necessarily work. Certainly, to my knowledge, I'm not.
Gotcha. Yeah,
And I know they start shooting in a couple of months. So,
gotcha.
no, not that I know of. And I think without Melissa, it's a little hard to
Yeah,
find a reason that Billy comes back. So,
for sure.
I assume not.
Gotcha. Gotcha. So I want to go back to your early days, back when you were up at NYU, and you began acting with the Atlantic Theater Company, which is huge. As a
Yeah.
playwright myself, just you being the student of David Mamet, it's like that's if Michael Jordan was your basketball coach. Like,
Yeah.
so can you speak to learning under him and what that experience was like?
Well, it wasn't just him, it was William H. Macy as well, who
Yeah,
was, they had developed a technique based on Meisner's acting techniques that
right.
Mamet had been a student of. And, it really spoke to so many things. Their method, or if you will, is really to get you outside of yourself and to speak to a commonality of all people through kind of subtextually what's under the dialogue. And it's a very specific and yet very freeing and an easy way to connect with character, with things that are very prevalent and internal inside of each individual. And he's an incredible teacher. He's an incredible playwright. And Macy is an incredible actor. And then, they had so many different things, from one of the best speech teachers on the planet, who helped get rid of my Southern accent. One of the
Yeah,
best movement teachers on the planet, who was a Merce Cunningham dancer, who taught us how to get in touch with our bodies and use our bodies, and to, find a center so we could free our bodies and create character from a clean center, if you will.
right.
And stage combat coaches, and like everything, voice coaches that were everything towards a theater. This was before theaters were mic'd,
Yeah,
and so but something that was easily usable no matter what the medium was. And I sit here to this day because of that. I was a little redneck who had no idea. I only knew that I needed a lot of coaching, and I needed as best teachers as I could get if
yeah,
I was going to have life as a storyteller. And I was very fortunate to get in his program, and his program didn't believe in auditioning. You had to answer 10 questions, And this is
Wow.
pre-internet, and it took
Yeah,
about 2 weeks to come up with those answers in the library. A lot of research. And the belief was that if you had the willpower to do that work, you had the willpower to be in the program, and he could teach you to act.
that's
And
amazing. Wow.
yeah, so I was blessed
Yeah,
to get to be a part of it, and they are an incredible school to this day. They're an incredible theater to this day. Um, and I actually saw Giancarlo Esposito in his Obie winning performance
oh,
while I was a student there, and he guest taught a couple classes while I was there,
that's
which
wild. Yeah.
yeah.
Now, was it always because when you talk to actors, most actors do have a background in theater. Was that always your dream? Did you always want to work on stage, or was that just kind of a means to an end at one point?
I don't know that I really thought about it, to be honest. I knew I wanted to tell stories and to, and my intro to that was theater. I did, I did some extra work. I went to University of North Carolina, Wilmington as a marine biology major and did some extra work for beer money
Yeah,
and, and got kind of mesmerized by it and realized that marine biology wasn't my thing. And started building sets for the theater department and then just sort of realized, oh, that's what I want to do.
yeah,
But I never really sort of thought, oh, I'll be a film actor or I'll be a theater actor. I just wanted to be an actor.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and so, everything sort of just happened the way it happened, but wasn't any great plan that I had.
Right, right. And then
Um,
so you hit it big in 94 to like 96. Those are the years,
it's
And
all downhill since then. No.
yeah, things really started to pick up. The Craft, Boys, obviously Scream.
Yeah.
Um, did it ever feel like you were being typecast? I don't know if that's the right word, but were you being drawn to the horror genre?
No, quite the opposite. I felt that like those are outliers in my career. I started Boys as a straight drama with Winona Ryder.
Yeah,
After that, I did Last Dance with an Oscar-winning director, Bruce Beresford, with Sharon Stone, and then The Craft happened, and then I did Kevin Spacey's directorial debut, which is a straight drama. Played Faye Dunaway's son. And then I did my first leading role with Chris Walken in Paul Schrader's Touch, which was a black comedy.
yeah,
And then I did Scream after that. And then I went back to doing, like As Good as It Gets and Newton Boys and
yeah,
period pieces for a little while. And so I feel like I really haven't really done that much horror, um, and so, no, I never felt typecast by anything, to be honest. I felt like I had a diversity that people saw and still see, uh, and that I'm able to do a lot of different things, which I'm fortunate for because I get bored easily.
yeah.
So,
I think that's the dream of any actor.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the fun is I'm about to play a part where I, play a chef, but it's a thriller. And so I'm taking cooking classes at night and I've been studying French for 4 months of my own,
Wow.
notion. And I get to blend that in there a little bit. And so I love my job. It
Yeah,
offers so many different things. So to just do one thing feels a bit stagnant to me.
definitely. And in those terms, there's sort of this unspoken bond between horror and comedy. We've seen it now with guys like Jordan Peele and Danny McBride with Halloween, and even in your work with Robot Chicken. And it's like
Yeah.
you, I don't know. There's like this antithesis, but it's also they can coexist. Can you talk
Yeah.
about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think Wes had it. I think Wes nailed it. Wes Craven, in that, his notion behind Scream was that if and behind in psychology was that if you can get people laughing, you've opened them up emotionally, and then you can scare the shit out of them. So I think that's part of why they coexist so well is you free yourself up unwillingly in some cases because of the humor, and as you're emotionally open, I mean, you're free game.
Yeah,
So I think that's why they work together so well,
yeah,
and something that Jordan Peele and Wes are masters at,
yeah,
and lots of people, but those two, since you mentioned them.
definitely. I want to talk about your chemistry a little bit on screen because I think it's unmatched what you do with other actors. Guys like Breckin Meyer, Matthew Lillard, especially, you just see it really honing in on that buddy comedy chemistry. Uh,
Yeah.
did that feel like it came naturally to you, or was that something you work on, while you're shooting or in rehearsal, or?
I think it comes naturally out of, of getting an understanding of tone with a piece. And I had it a lot with Giancarlo and Parrish.
Yeah,
And it just comes out of an idea of, the musicality of a piece and how, we're each an instrument in a symphony. And, if people are playing the same instrument, it just doesn't quite, you don't hear it. So this idea of, moving the story forward and story first and tone is a big part of story. And you kind of just start to hear it, as you work on it. And even sometimes if you don't get rehearsals, just in the moment, of staying in the moment and understanding what your character needs and wants, and opposed to what they need and want, and how that can work. I guess it's become instinctual over the years, but
yeah,
definitely something you work on in preparation internally, with Parrish, it just sort of came out of the understanding that I knew, given the structure of the story and the plot of the story and what Giancarlo had to do, that he carried all the bass notes.
yeah,
And we needed something staccato to move the piece along so that he could revel in those moments without it dragging us down. And if I was reveling in the bass notes of my character, it just sort of got way too heavy.
yeah.
So, it's just an instinct. And I think a lot of actors develop that instinctually and just out of their own sort of expertise, and
Right.
abilities. But there's no hard and fast rules to it. And I think that's what makes it all so unique, and every film different.
Yeah. And then jumping to another big heavy hitter that you've worked with, Jack Nicholson.
Oh
Uh,
man.
when you worked on As Good as It Gets, what were those conversations like? Because I think that would have been what, like 97. So did he recognize you from your work
Yeah, like
on screen?
96-ish. He knew about me
Okay.
certainly and was aware of the work I had done. And I mean, he's a brilliant, very present human being, very, very, very smart. I had a bunch of scenes cut out of that movie, and one of them was the original ending was him coming up to me on the street and trying to lure me away to get the cops to arrest me, and
Oh,
and
and
it was hysterical, the dialogue and all that. But I remember in rehearsals him saying, and I will do a very bad Jack impersonation because it works so well for the story. But he said, I think the key to playing old is to treat every object in the room as if it's the age you want to be. So if
yeah,
that glass is 80 years old, I want to be really careful not to disturb the dust around it because it might just crumble. And we were like, wow,
yeah,
holy. And what it brought to mind was this is a guy who spends 24/7 figuring out how to bring reality to cinema,
yeah,
and is brilliant at how he does it, and you're thinking outside yourself. You're not thinking about playing old. You're thinking about everything outside yourself, which goes to Mamet's ideas of,
yeah.
losing your self-consciousness. And Jim Brooks was like, "Oh my God, that's brilliant. You have to tell people that." And he's like,
Yeah.
"Well, then they know what I was doing."
Yep, yep, there it
But
is.
yeah, it was that kind of thing. There's just such a theatrical intellect that was
Yeah,
beyond anything I'd ever witnessed.
yeah,
It's why he's Jack.
right. Zach, you definitely
Oh,
had an unconventional childhood. You come from a racing family, which fans probably know. NASCAR is in your blood. Uh, Ricky Rudd is your uncle, which is insane. I just remember him in the Tide car growing up. Like that was I was like, I love
yeah,
that paint job.
he made the Hall of Fame too. He's getting inducted.
Yeah.
February. So
That's
he's a legend.
that's such a unique perspective and where you're coming from. Did you ever have an urge to follow that career path at all?
100%. I mean, it's in my blood. I'm an incredibly talented driver, as labeled by my uncle and other.
Yeah.
We did a promo for Parish, which was initially called The Driver in the UK version. So, Giancarlo plays a driver, a getaway driver, if you will, and so we did this promo at in Austin at
Oh, nice.
Coda has
Yeah.
a go-kart track in front of the track, and
Yep.
they had a couple of NASCAR drivers and Giancarlo and I dusted them all. And our drivers were like, "What in the world?" They're like, "You're just naturally talented,"
Yeah.
and just yeah, I have a thirst for it for sure, and always
Yeah.
have. My son was doing 110 in a race car at 8 years old, and
My God.
so it's just part of growing up in a racing family. Yeah, you really want to do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And for those who don't know, now your father kidnapped you when you were, 6 years old. Uh,
Yeah,
then 4 years later, abandons you with your birth mother. So you're 10. First and
yeah,
foremost, I'm so happy you made it through that to the other side because there are stories like that that don't end that way. And
yeah.
I just want to know, do you still hold a resentment or have you kind of found peace all these years later with that experience?
Well, just to clarify, like, I wouldn't say he abandoned us with my mom. I would say we had the good fortune of my mom finding us, and he
Yeah.
disappeared, which was his own predilection. But being a parent heals a lot of wounds, and I got to relive everything I didn't get as from a father as a father, and so I've made a lot of peace with it. Yeah, I'm sure it still rears itself in different ways at times that I may or may not be aware of. A general insecurity, a general feeling of unworthiness at times. Things I think a lot of people go through who didn't get that love early on. So, yeah, I deal with it, but being a dad has like corrected so much of it, and really I don't really think about it that much, to be honest.
We kind of talked about it before the interview, but you were on Michael Rosenbaum's podcast, and I teared up a little bit when you talked about, you know, you talked a little bit about therapy, but also just being a father, how
Yeah.
cathartic of an experience that is for you, and getting to fix those mistakes, and that's so inspirational to hear.
I'm blessed. I'm really blessed. I have two incredible kids, or they're young adults now. They're 23, who are just, there's nobody who meets them who isn't blown away by their presence, their empathy, their love. They're like just incredible people. And I'm proud of them every single moment of every single day. And they know it.
Yeah,
So, yes, I had a lot to do with that, but a lot of that just speaks to who they are, and
yeah,
tears me up as a father, to have them in my lives, and
yeah,
and we are thick as thieves.
yeah,
So yeah, I'm a blessed man for
yeah,
sure.
absolutely. So you mentioned it. You just finished up AMC's Parish. What do you have going on moving forward? You said you're doing this chef role.
Yeah, it's a film called Devoted, that is about I play the husband of a couple who, my wife is estranged from her sister, and the story starts out with us bringing her home. She's the sole survivor of a mass cult suicide
Whoa. Okay.
and doesn't speak, and so very similar in tone to Killing of a Sacred Deer.
Yeah.
Uh, just things start going dark
Yeah.
with presence, and it's a thriller, and
Yeah.
it's a great thriller. So we'll start shooting that, and then I joined a franchise that I'm really proud to join that I can't mention yet.
Oh wow. Okay.
Uh,
Don't
and
spoil, please.
yeah, no, I can't say. I will not say. Don't
That's
twist it.
That's so exciting. That's awesome.
Yeah. And then I wrote a piece that I've written over a number of years now that is finding a great home that really about my mom and I.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll get to make that at some point.
Yeah. Screenplay or stage play or
It's a series.
that's awesome.
Yeah,
Man,
yeah.
that's so
Well,
cool.
yeah, lots of stuff kind of brewing. It was really slow after Parrish, the strike, you
Yeah.
know, still kind of rebounding from that. It's been the longest stretch of not working in my career, but I love home. I love my kids. I love my hobbies, and
Yeah.
I miss it. I miss it bad.
Yeah.
So fortunately, I'm ready to go back and getting to go back in a
Yeah.
couple.
That thirst is there, it never leaves.
Very, very.
Um, yeah, I mean, like we said, this is your season. Do you guys get together and like watch Scream? Is
I
that a
don't think my
tradition?
kids have even seen it, to be honest.
Come on.
I no, we don't. I mean, certainly we had years of when they were younger, trick or treating together and all that, and
Yeah.
that's always it was always fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, no real spot. I mean, I'm on a plane Halloween this year going
Yeah.
to convention in Rhode Island.
Oh, that's cool.
So I don't even get to do anything this Halloween. No real traditions. I mean, like I said, there used to be, yeah, but as they've grown up and left home, I'm not gonna, we don't get any trick-or-treaters. I live up this hill in
Yeah.
LA and nobody walks up it. So
That's nice. That's
yeah,
nice.
so it's sort of isolated from down in the neighborhood. There's a lot going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes I go down there
Yeah.
and take in the joy of kids enjoying Halloween, but yeah.
Well, I know the fans appreciate you doing the cons and everything that you're doing now. We love you. We love your work. And I just want to say thank you so much for your time. This was awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you so much. It's really a considerate interview, and I really appreciate it. I love what you guys do, and thank you for that.